Good evening, Upstate, and welcome to Panorama. Panorama is the Communications Department annual public speaking event. I'm your host, Alex Bauk. I'm a senior Communication Studies and American Sign Language major, and for those of you who don't know me, I actually do this for a living. I travel the country with Encore DCS being an MC, so I'm extremely grateful to be here. So thank you so much to the Panorama team, and especially Dr. Wieskamp for trusting me with this. Tonight we have 5 incredible students sharing their perspectives on topics they are super passionate about. And students here for class credit, all of that's going to take place at the end. On behalf of the Panorama team, we extend huge thank yous to the Department of Communications, the Schaefer Center staff, and App TV for helping us bring this event to life. Out of respect for our speakers and the work they have put in, please take this time to silence your cell phones. We also ask that you hold your seats and wait to move around until the speaker on stage has concluded. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome Bright Uwakwe to the stage to kick off our evening with their speech, My Beautiful, Beautiful Stutter.
Oh my God. Well, hi. Hi. Okay. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for your patience with me as I begin my speech. My name is Bright Uwakwe, and I am a person who stutters. I have been stuttering all my life for 19 years now. So what you saw at the start of my speech was me 7 years ago in grade 9 of high school. I was given a speech. However, the only difference is that right now, I am not running off the stage. Okay, so this was me in grade 9 of high school. I had just joined the debate club and was immediately selected to give a speech in front of the entire school. I think I was 11 years old then, so I was super excited. I can't recall the exact topic, but for a first-timer to have been selected to give a speech in front of the entire school, that's a really big deal. And so I made sure I was ready. I practiced for 1,000 years in front of my mom, my siblings, my friends, in front of the mirror. In my head, my speech was just perfect. So, the day of the speech came. I was super confident. I walked on stage. I had my friends cheering at me. However, when I got there, everywhere was silent. Well, I was silent. I wasn't able to utter a single word, and this was until the chatter of everyone else in the crowd started becoming louder and louder. So they were laughing at me and mocking the way I was trying to communicate. I got super embarrassed, started crying, and so I ran off the stage. Ever since that day, I sort of made it my life's goal to avoid every opportunity where I would have to speak in front of a crowd ever again. Well, here I am. Okay, so what does it mean for one to stutter? Stuttering is a disorder that is characterized by a disruption in the flow of speech. It is this feeling where you know exactly what you want to say, but are not able to do so as freely or as easily as you would love to. It is as if there is a stifle in your throat that forces you to repeat words, prolong sounds, or even encounter a full stuttering block, which is a situation where you are not able to utter a single word at all. Stuttering affects people of all ages. However, it is mostly common among kids ranging from 2 to 6 years old. I have been stuttering since I was a kid. So now let's hear from my mother about her experience with me as a stutterer when I was a kid.
Oh, what I noticed that you stammer is when you are coming up as a baby, as a child growing up. Anytime you want to communicate with me, you tap me, mommy, mama. You use your hand to express your feelings. So what I did, I went to get you alphabetic cassette like A for apple, B for boy, C for cat, and ABCDEFGHIJKLMNOP.
Okay.
Anytime you hear the song of all this music, wow, it's just like, ow, my mommy has done it all this alphabet helps you a lot. And today you can pronounce mommy very well.
Period.
And today you can express yourself very well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that was my mom, y'all. I love her so much, and I'm sad that she can't be here today, but I'm very happy that she made this video for me. Okay, prior to my debate experience in high school, there are two more experiences I would love to share with you regarding times when speaking was difficult for me. However, first off, I would love to know how many of you here is the youngest sibling in the family? That's quite a number. Okay. Well, I am the youngest in my family. I have 3 older siblings, and we were all raised by my mom. And I am also from Nigeria. There, with being the youngest in the family, your parent would strongly advise you against going out on your own. So as someone who stutters, this was good, because it meant I could hide. Whenever I needed to go to places where I would have to speak in order to get something, such as purchasing snacks, I typically go with my mom or any of my siblings, and then they speak for me. So that was my way of making myself feel small in order to avoid speaking. The second experience I would love to share is one I unfortunately couldn't avoid: jumping on calls. How many of us here orders fast food from McDonald's? Okay, good. Well, I order fast food from McDonald's as well, and let's assume that you purchase a burger, and you gave them a special instruction to include three ketchups. However, they did not. So you dial their customer care service, they pick up, and they usually respond with this line: "Hi, you've reached McDonald's customer care service. How can I help you?" For me, my response is typically this: silence. I am typically not able to say anything. Most times I'm stuck in this loop where I'm just trying to say my name, but then they hang up the call. After these experiences, I typically end up crying, and then I run to my mom when she's with me, and then I unfortunately blame her for giving birth to a kid who stuttered. This is cruel of me, I know, but it was truly how I felt back then. Okay. Here's where things start to turn over. In 2020, COVID happened. And like everyone else, I was stuck at home with my family. I saw how hard my mom worked to provide for everyone in my family, and I just wanted to make a change. At that point in life, the only kind of change I could foresee happening was one caused by the ripple effect of a quality education. And I found out that I could only find that here in the United States. And so I started my study abroad process. Grueling enough, everything that came with that process required me to speak. In order for me to get admission, I had to jump on Zoom meetings with admissions counselor. In order for me to get scholarships, I had to do here we go. I had to do scholarship interviews. And in order for me to get a visa, I had to do a visa interview, which is the most grueling. You've done all the work. You've gotten admission. You've gotten scholarships. It all comes down to this 2-minute interview with someone who would decide your future. When I found out about this, I didn't want to do the process anymore. However, because I am the last born in my family, and because I really wanted to make a change in my household, I had to sort of push through. That was when I began accepting my stutter as a part of me and a part of my identity. There are still times when I cry about not being able to say what I want to say, but I always think about this. Everyone has something that they go through. Everyone has a disability, but most people who do still go out there and do amazing things. So these are a handful of people who have some sort of disability, but still go out there and kill it. For instance, Joe Biden. Did y'all know that, like me, Joe Biden was a stutterer? But he still went out there and became the 46th president of the US. Chadwick Boseman. He had cancer, but he still killed it in Black Panther. And these other people do amazing jobs in their roles, including me. Last month, I hosted Pi Day with the Mac Club, and I successfully got pie on my face. And I'm going to be a successful future actuary. Ain't that cool? Okay, so in my head, if these people with a disability can go out there and kill it, then I can do the same, even with a stuttering ability. And I think most people can too. So, there are over 80 million people in the world who stutter, and billions more with some kind of disability. I see so many kids on social media now, especially Reddit, who hate themselves because of how they speak. That was once me. So now I'm going to give you all a few seconds to go through this. So these are some of the comments I got from Reddit about how people feel when they stutter. The third one is one that touches me more because it says, "Stuttering ruined my life completely." That was how I felt after my debates in high school. The fourth one says, "W words are particularly hard for me." For me, K words are harder. Whenever I'm at the dining hall Chick-fil-A and I need to say the word ketchup, I typically resort to spelling it. And spelling words is my way of speaking. So now, in the classroom, whenever I need to ask or answer a question, I either raise my hands up and take up space and ask that question, or I write my questions down on my tablet and then go to my professor's office hour and ask them. Or I take my time, I pause, and I spell out words. It's my way of speaking. It's very unique, I know, but it is what makes me bright. And I wouldn't be the kind and patient and empathetic person I am today without my beautiful, beautiful, I'm going to spell this one, S-T-U-T-T-E-R. A beautiful, beautiful stutter. Thank you. Thank you so much. I got all these cards. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Let's give it up one more time for Bright. And let's keep that energy up for our next speaker. This is Kaylee Rollison with From the Ground Up, Building Climate Resilient Forest.
Hey, you guys. My name is Kaylee, and today I want to talk with you about something that has shaped my studies, my values, and the way I see the world. The forest. And my hope is by the time I'm finished, it will matter to you just as deeply as it does to me. This past summer, I studied abroad in Costa Rica, and it was one of those rare experiences when you come home seeing everything differently than when you left. But there was one moment in particular that changed the way I understand conservation, and it's the reason I'm speaking to you today. I met an incredible woman named Daniela who told me a story about the Acatea monteverdensis, a tree species essential to Costa Rica's cloud forests. The population was declining, and along with it, the population of the three-wattled bellbird was also falling. The connection was clear, but the solution was not. And 70% of these trees were on private land, so that means the future of the species did not depend on a government agency. It depended on ordinary people. So Daniela and her team did something simple but powerful. They went door to door, they introduced themselves, they asked their neighbors if they could walk their land with them, teach them about the tree, how to identify it, and then how to protect it. And with time, something remarkable happened. Adults began to call her whenever they saw one endangered. Children learned to recognize the tree on sight, and a tree that was once quietly disappearing is now protected by an entire community. And this is what Danny calls community-based conservation. Protecting forests by empowering the people that live closest to them. If you were here 2 years ago, then you probably know why we need conservation and resilience more than ever. But if you weren't, let me summarize it for you. In September of 2024, Hurricane Helene tore through our mountains. Communities were devastated, some being left with nothing. And within those communities, the forests were simultaneously damaged. And I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine waking up the morning after the storm, and the forest you once known is totally unrecognizable. The canopy is gone, the ground is exposed, and the silence is the kind that sits heavy in your chest. Hurricane Helene damaged 821,906 acres of forest land, and it is estimated to have caused $59.6 billion in damages, and 78% of that damage occurred on private land. So imagine being one of these landowners. Many of us have just watched the landscape change through our favorite hikes or family land, and even that feels overwhelming. So who are we to expect landowners to take control of this situation? So, what do climate-resilient forests actually need? First, we clear the invasives. When a storm clears a canopy, it opens the door for new growth. Pioneer species that love disturbed areas begin to move in. Fast-growing trees like tulip poplar reach for the sunlight. And in areas where invasives were already present or nearby, species like bittersweet and Japanese barberry explode across the landscape, preventing any growth from even happening. So I want you to close your eyes. I want you to imagine the last time you were in an old forest. not a young, scraggly hillside, not a planted pine row, but a real ancient forest. Moss beneath your feet, shrubs reaching for the light, young trees reaching for old trees, layers of growth, everything connected. You probably felt something without knowing why. And that feeling is complexity. And complexity isn't just beautiful, it's resilience. Hundreds of relationships, thousands of species, and that is exactly what we're fighting for. So that leads me to biodiversity. Biodiversity is the backbone to resilience. A climate-resilient forest isn't just a forest that survives, it's a forest that can recover. And when I say biodiversity, I'm not just talking about how many species are present. I'm talking about genetic diversity, because trees are like us, and some are more resilient to certain pests or diseases or even drought. And I'm also talking about age diversity. Young trees are good at quickly storing carbon, and old trees do the same, but they're also securing the soil and buffering any big winds that come through. And so that moves me on to keystone species. Within all of this biodiversity, there are some species that are doing a little more work than others. And those are our keystone species. They are the key to the ecosystem. And oaks, hickories, and certain pines are all examples of this. Just like the acatea in Costa Rica held together an entire web of life, oaks and hickories are the backbone of the southern Appalachias. And they often are more adapted to the environment, requiring less water and supporting our wildlife with their nutritious food sources. But let's not forget about all the other wonderful native trees. Some of my favorites being yellow buckeye and Fraser magnolia. So next is management. Once the trees are in the ground, it doesn't stop there. Trees planted too close together begin to compete for water and nutrients, which often causes them to just grow tall and skinny and weak at the base, becoming very vulnerable to any wind that comes through. And competition is a threat to resilience. So that means we have to teach people what a healthy forest looks like. A forest that can breathe is a forest that can survive. Now, before we can even talk about biodiversity or talk about resilience, we must face the reality on the ground. Western North Carolina is covered in deadwood, massive branches, tangled up twigs, huge trees, and something must be done about this. When thousands of trees fall, they pile up, they dry out, and they become fuel. Fuel for wildfires that spread faster in our mountain winds and are going to burn hotter because of the sheer volume of debris. And we're seeing this happen right now across Wilkes County. And we're seeing this happen right across Wilkes County. And so, what should our next steps be? This isn't an abstract idea. It's about safety, stability, and the future of our communities, which is why I propose to you biochar, one of my favorites. Biochar takes what was destroyed and turns it into something that heals. It locks carbon away for over 100 years. That's more than my lifetime. and probably yours too. It increases soil structure and water retention, and it's going to improve microbial life and help trees grow in places where invasives have taken over. And most importantly, it gives landowners a reason and a way to act. Not too long ago, I visited a farm not too far from here, and this is their first real growing season since Helene. Not just because Helene destroyed their crops, but because they've been buried under debris for over a year now. And if you've hiked the Boone Fort Trail, you've seen something similar. Huge trees still downed across the path, root balls taller than a person, pulled straight up out of the ground. A year later, and the land is still trying to catch its breath. Now, I tell you this not to overwhelm you, but to make it real. Our forests protect everything we love about Western North Carolina. They protect our economy, from timber to recreation to tourism. They protect our wildlife, from bears to salamanders. They protect our drinking water filtered through their deep root systems. They protect our culture, our identity, our sense of place. The future of Western North Carolina is our forest. And I want to remind you that resilient forests won't just happen by accident. They will happen because people choose to care, to act, and to learn. Hurricane Helene gave us a rare opportunity not just to rebuild, but to rebuild better and with our community. We have an opportunity to plant forests that will stand strong 50 years from now, and to teach everyone in our community how to read this forest like a story they are a part of. And I will tell you once again that none of this will work without people. And that brings me back to Daniela. She didn't do this alone. She didn't save a tree all by herself, but she also didn't wait on the government or government agency. She knocked on doors and she built a movement from the ground up. And Western North Carolina can do the same. We can build our forests and we can protect them. And most of us don't own land, but that's okay. Some of the most powerful work in conservation has been done by ordinary people. You just have to act. So, what can you do? First, you can learn and share. Learn about these native species and their benefits, and learn about invasives and how to identify them. Knowledge spreads one conversation at a time, just like Danny did. Next, connect with local organizations. Groups like Blue Ridge Women in Ag, or the Agriculture Extension Office, or Mountain True are doing this work right now. So show up, help your community, donate, volunteer, attend a workshop, anything. Just be a part of your community. Advocate. Talk to your elected officials and also elect people that will support restoration work, that will help landowners get funding for their restoration that they need. And most importantly, see yourself as a part of this forest's future, because you are. It's our time to build our forests from the ground up with our community, because that's the only way we will truly build long-term resilience. This is our time to build resilience, not someday, not when the next storm comes, but now. Thank you.
Up next, a topic near and dear to my heart. This is Yasmin Parks with Radical Empathy.
I'll start us off with a story. I used to have this job that I hated with every fiber in my being. I was a drug dealer. Legally speaking, I worked at a smoke shop. Sounds like a sweet gig, right? Except every day, I felt like I was selling my soul for $10 an hour. It wasn't the Mary Jane or the THCA products. It was selling the chemically addictive things like nicotine, kratom, and what we had to legally call whipped cream cans, if you catch my drift. How could I be someone that claims to be the change she wants to see in the world while making commission off of people's addictions? I lost sight of myself, and my heart felt like I was beginning to harden. One day, while I was eating lunch at Wildwood Community Market, I looked up and saw this tapestry. Practice radical empathy. It's big blue-green letters embodying the complete opposite of everything the job I had made me feel. At first, I thought to myself, this is a banging sandwich. But then I thought, what does that mean? What does that look like? This phrase seeped into my mind week after week until I went on a climate change retreat that made me question how much time I was spending on the things I enjoyed. At the time, it was little to none. And then when I returned, I finally quit. Like many of us caught in a job we don't enjoy, it puts you in a state of purgatory while just barely paying for your sandwich and your rent, which also costed you your soul. I want to start us off with the first definition, radical. Don't let this word frighten you or make you tense up. Radical is very different from the usual or traditional, extreme, favoring extreme changes in existing views, habits, conditions, or institutions. I find it interesting that the first definition it gives is of relating to or proceeding from a root. The slang definition, I'll just go ahead and give you an example. That wave is like totally radical, dude. Empathy is the action of understanding, being aware of, being sensitive to, and vicariously experiencing the feelings, thoughts, and experiences of another. The act of imagining one's ideas, feelings, or attitudes as fully inhabiting something observed, like a work of art or a natural occurrence. The imaginative projection of a subjective state into an object so that the object appears to be infused with it. All of you had one of three reactions to that definition. That's really beautiful. Just give me the extra credit. Or what does that mean? Everyone loves the idea of practicing empathy. But what about when it's hard? Not many people consider their empathy to be biased. However, psychological research shows that depending on your moral beliefs about what's right and wrong can shift and limit your empathy. Even then, your morals shift depending on the person. For example, let's say you're in your car. You're driving, and this guy forgets to turn on his turn signal. Ugh, God, making me brake hard. People can't drive. Let's say you're in the car with your friend. She forgets her turn signal. Oh, she's just forgetful like that. Why is this guy honking so hard? He's acting like he hit us. Fine. Let's say you keep all your friends accountable for their questionable driving skills. I bet you that all of us have been here, though. You're in your car. You're thinking, God, I wish these people would walk faster. Can you walk any slower? But then on the other side, you're walking. I'm the pedestrian. I have the right of way. No, go ahead. Hit me. Pay for my tuition. I don't care. What's the point of empathy if you only show it to a select group of people? This philosopher, Immanuel Kant, was great at being radical about morals and values. His ideas on the categorical imperative that moral actions are absolute and individuals should act on principles that are only universal echo this sentiment. In normal words, if lying is bad in this context, it should be bad in all. If you're empathetic in this situation, you should be empathetic in all situations. These words together, radical and empathy, mean having equal empathy for someone close, a stranger, yourself, nature, followed by compassion. Compassion can look like giving a helping hand, giving grace. By no means is this easy. Like love, it's an active phrase that takes patience, practice, and effort. I promise I'm not just here to help you cope with your road rage. By practicing radical empathy daily, it'll transform how you approach and show up in your everyday life. It can be really confusing as to what the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion are. To break it down simply, sympathy is the most passive of the three terms. Sympathy is just feeling pity without necessarily understanding or engaging in the feelings. For example, I see you in the cave. I'm sorry you're in the cave. Empathy is understanding the feelings while also engaging with them and feeling them yourself. I see you in the cave. I understand how you feel because I'm right there with you. Compassion is the most engaged of the three terms because it seeks to alleviate the feelings while also helping. I see you in the cave. Here's the rope. Let me get you out of there. What's interesting to me is that compassion can exist without empathy. Some argue that compassion should replace empathy because if you're empathetic with no boundaries, it can put you so far in the cave that you can't help. I do agree that you need boundaries because we aren't in the business of burning ourselves out emotionally. However, empathy is a catalyst for compassion. It facilitates the willingness to help while also giving you a better understanding so you can help in the best way possible. We've all been in a situation where someone thinks that they're helping, that their way is the correct way of helping. But then you have to sit there, gritting your teeth, because there's no deep understanding. Thank you, because you know they mean well. That's why a detached approach to compassion is not the most effective and can feel hollow. You're probably sitting there now thinking, you're saying a lot of words, lady, but how do I do it? Here are 3 steps to practicing radical empathy. 1, take a breath. When you're frustrated or mad, your amygdala, which is the part of your brain that processes emotions like fear, aggression, anxiety, can fire, triggering your fight or flight response. This can increase your heart rate, make your breathing shallow, and inevitably impact your decision making. Sometimes you don't even realize you're not breathing. Some of you are probably not breathing right now. 2, be curious. Stop taking everything personal and just observe. Don't crash out. Instead, sit there, observe, get curious. If you stop taking everything personal, you'll see people more clearly. People are far more multifaceted than we give them credit for. Last August, while I was at the American Psychological Association conference, across the street from where it was held were these two street pastors yelling about how psychology is witchcraft and psychologists are just in the business of medicating you and manipulating you. So I watched them for a while before I, the future psychologist who practices witchcraft, walked up to them. One group of conference goers had their phones and were laughing. There was another just trying to walk by, mind their business. But then there was this senior psychologist, badge and all, who walked across the street, pointing at them, yelling, "F you!" While talking to the main organizer, I learned that he had been a nurse for years who had been traumatized by the healthcare system and hit a wall of compassion fatigue. Then he turned to faith. So I asked him, "Well, have you been inside?" Yeah, we've been inside. We have passes," he said, pointing to the lobby. So I asked further, "Well, have you actually walked around to look at the sessions? There's some about therapeutic practices that aren't all medication. There's some about spirituality. You might seriously learn something even if you don't agree." He paused for a second and admitted to me that he hadn't actually walked around, nor was he interested. In my cognitive psychology class, I learned that our brains are literally wired to die on our heels, even if we know we're dead wrong. This is known as belief preservation. Confirmation bias is this silly little thing that we all do where we unconsciously seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. Our brains love consistencies. We don't want to admit mistakes. So I took his pamphlet, and when I got back to the hotel, I read it just to see what he believed in. Then I threw it away. I didn't have to agree with him to show him empathy and understanding in that moment. I'm not asking you to be fake, politically correct, or facilitate incompetence. I'm asking you to pause and understand. The last step to practicing radical empathy is to empathize with yourself. Empathize with yourself because your internal mental framework will shape how you see and interact with the world. Empathize with yourself when you make an initial judgmental thought or when you really, really mess up. This can be difficult, and you might be somebody who finds it easier to serve others than yourself. But I promise you, if you nurture yourself, you'll be able to help others so much more. You're not doing anyone a favor by not empathizing with yourself. Finally, I just want to say that you will never, ever be perfect at this. It's something you do every day that you train like a muscle. It gets easier the more you do it. But sometimes you will be the asshole. If nothing else, let this give you peace of mind for when you start to act crazy and you think, you know what, 2 wrongs do make it right. The feeling of standing in compassion and empathy will leave you far more satiated than being a bigot and a hypocrite. We need radical empathy because we're all interdependent on each other. By practicing radical empathy daily, you'll show up calmer, make better decisions, even not just with road rage, but in your relationships. That conservative farmer who grows your food, that liberal who takes care of your kids, that anarchist who does your piercings or tattoos. We need it because we need each other to survive. And to better support each other is to understand each other. And if we could just make our days a little bit better while the government is beating us down every single day, no matter who you are, why wouldn't we? Thank you.
Up next to the Schaefer Center stage, please give a warm welcome to Ellen Wong with her speech, The Pitfalls of Short-Form Content and Social Media Addiction.
Hey y'all, I'm here to tell you about the pitfalls of short-form content and social media addiction and why it's becoming such a prevalent and intense problem in modern-day society. So, I'm a child of the early 2000s. I grew up with the technological innovations of the times. It was very exciting, and I was so hopeful that it would be used for good in the future. Now, I'm somebody that has endless curiosity, so I would be on the internet all the time searching for any kind of knowledge on any subject. And that led to me being chronically online, as people would call it. And at its worst, I was on my phone for about 8 hours a day, which is actually the average for kids 8 to 18 years old in the US. Now, I tended to feel very socially awkward and insecure and anxious, and this only became worse after the year 2020. Yeah, the year when we were all locked inside our houses with nothing to do but scroll, it seemed. And, you know, I was on that TikTok because all my friends were on there and I had to know the newest dance trend. Like, I needed to learn and I needed to post it. So I'm sure y'all can relate to that. And so after 2020, lots of people became depressed and anxious, just like this ant with a stick. That's his smartphone in the bindle right there. So depression among adults nearly tripled early 2020. From 8.5% before the pandemic to 27.8%. And that issue didn't stop there. In 2021, the rates of depression rose to 32.8%, affecting 1 in every 3 adults in America. Now, COVID was a really rough time for us mentally, and I began to recognize my own patterns of addiction as we were coming out of the pandemic. And so I decided it was time to make a change in my lifestyle. So I slowly cut out social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, and I felt my mind unload and clear. I just did not want all of that stimuli. And this is becoming an issue among lots of people So I actually became more aware of my social media addiction after reading the book Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman, which I read in my comm class. So it was released in 1985, but it brings up lots of parallels to the present day. And these are some quotes that have aged very well, in my opinion. He was kind of onto something there. So it is a serious issue that affects 210 million people worldwide. And studies show that teens who use social media for more than 5 hours a day are 71% more vulnerable to suicide, which is the second leading cause of death in the US for individuals 10 to 30. Now, why are these social media platforms keeping us so hooked? Well, they're designed to be addictive. The mechanisms of scrolling are meant to mimic a slot machine at a casino. You get these hits of dopamine, and you're constantly in search for a better video. It's probably what most would call a mythical pull. So think of it like a sweet treat. It kind of affects the reward systems in our brain. You know, you get a sweet treat at the end of the day after working hard. But with social media, you just get a sweet treat. Every scroll, and your mind gets overloaded with that dopamine, which causes that depression and that overstimulation of the mind. Now, social media actually activates the same chemicals in the brain that drug addiction does. So they parallel each other in very disturbing ways. And I'm sure y'all have noticed that social media used to be a place where you could connect with your friends, but now it just seems like more media than social. Now, a lot of kids, this is how I feel after getting sidetracked on social media. They just, when they have the reels on your feed, they just suck you in, and it affects your time processing because you'll just be in a loop. You'll be in that flow state of scrolling, and before you know it, it's like the sun's coming up. So besides mental, there are a lot of physical implications to scrolling. So when I was younger and when I was a little chronically online kid, my parents would always tell me to fix my posture, probably because I was always on that phone scrolling. So I'm sure y'all have seen these brain rot characters. So brain rot is actually meant to be like sources of dopamine for these kids, but it actually causes mental fog, lethargy, affects your attention span, and then brain drain is actually the phenomenon that even the mere presence of your smartphone causes a decrease in cognitive capacity and the ability for you to memorize things. So I get concerned about this issue because of our future generations, like iPad babies, I'm sure y'all might have seen. So because these kids are developing with these screens, it is affecting their cognitive behaviors and cognitive and social abilities. And a developing child's mind is so moldable, and I worry that these screens are having a really negative impact on the way that they think, and the way that they memorize. I also get concerned because of what I said earlier about the addictive components of social media. It may make them susceptible to other substances because they want that stimulation. So, will we turn out like this? Probably not, it's just a parody, but it has all the features of a human who has like a grip on their phone or a hunched over back. And it's actually really disturbing that I found a statistic that said that excessive smartphone use may increase the risk of cognitive, emotional, and behavioral disorders in adolescents and young adults that has the potential to cause early onset dementia, also known as digital dementia, which can impair your memory. Now, there is hope because there was recently a landmark case that said that YouTube and Meta are responsible for causing mental issues. The victim of this case was stating that they were having thoughts of self-harm, anxiety, depression, all of the things that we might have felt. And it's really important that legal litigation is happening so that people know that this is an issue that demands change. The Surgeon General actually said in 2024 that there should be a warning label for these addictive platforms. Recently, Australia banned social media for kids under the age of 16. Many other countries thought of doing the same thing, and I believe these would be very beneficial for the future of our societies. Now, what are some ways that you can mitigate your social media addiction? Picking up new hobbies. You know, I like to play my guitar, I like to do yoga, regulate that nervous system. Changing the settings in your phone to grayscale. Finding third places like the cafe, the library, the dive bar, and exploring in real life communities that can encourage face-to-face communication to improve those social skills and reclaim your attention. Another thing that I'm really passionate about is volunteering, because we don't need people in their houses holed up on screens. We need people out there doing things for the greater good of society. The most important thing to do is breaking your bad habits to create better ones. So this might look like not using your phone the first and last hour of the day, or having breaks, 1 hour on, 1 hour off, or even a total digital detox. And I really encourage y'all to get out in nature and touch grass. And hopefully I made y'all realize that it really is that damn phone. Thank you for paying attention.
I don't know if you've been paying attention to your phone, but it's getting a little stormy outside. And closing out our night of speeches, please welcome Sally Dillon with her speech, The Detour.
I'm a junior here at Appalachian State University. I'm a public relations major, North Carolina born and raised, and I love my cat, Hunky Dory. 1 second. Gotta make it a little dramatic. All right, y'all. So today, you and I are going to tackle 3 things. The first, we are going to define a detour. Second, we are going to form a course of action. What do we do when we're on a detour? And lastly, we are going to leave here more strong, more pumped up, and more confident in our direction than ever before. So let me paint y'all a picture. I decided I was going to hike Rough Ridge. Knew the path, seen many conquer it, seen the overlook countless times. I had a plan. I had a set direction and set direction. So I got in my car, headed to the hike as an independent, relentless, stubborn young woman, and I embarked on the journey. I pulled off at the wrong spot, except I did not know it was the wrong spot at the time. But being a stubborn, independent, relentless young woman, I got out of my car and started hiking. No one was around. The path was rough. There was no clear direction. I had absolutely no idea where I was going. But I made a path where there was not one. So I kept hiking. The branches were scratching me. I could not see the sun, but I was determined. And just when I was about to stop, the land opened up. A red-tailed hawk soared above. Springs trickled in the distance. And I knew something deep in my bones that this was a special, profound moment. But I'm a stubborn, independent, relentless young woman, and I got back in my car and I said, I'm going to hike Rough Ridge. And so I pulled off at the right spot, began hiking. I was determined, hiking efficiently, passing people, saying, hey folks, how's it going? And before I knew it, I was at the top with so many others. And while yes, the overlook was beautiful, I did not get the same feeling in my bones. The uncharted path was the one that brought fruit, beauty, and fulfillment. The set path was one that brought rushed expectation, completion, and unfulfillment. Merriam-Webster defines a detour as a deviation from a direct course or the usual procedure. And let me tell you, last year, my life took one hell of a detour. I was a political science major, determined to follow the path I had planned for as long as I could remember. I was going to graduate, attend law school, enter the field of public policy, and serve the people. I had a plan. I had a set path and set direction. And as a determined, relentless young woman, I knew I was failing long before I let anyone know. And while this failure was difficult, it brought a lot of strenuous stress, but it was one that should not be hidden, but rather the contrary. It should be celebrated. It eliminated the set path in front of me. I no longer had a direction. I was in uncharted wilderness. The only thing I could hear was thunder. I could not see the sun, and I had no direction. So what do I do? In the winter of 2024, I began volunteering at Deerfield Assisted Living Community located here in Boone. Rebecca Tester serves as the enrichment director, and through this position, she gives life to each and every resident. Through volunteering with this community, I have formed a home away from home. Tester told me once that we do not get older in life, we get more golden. And as I served our golden population, I learned and was humbled to be the recipient of their wisdom. One of my best friends at Deerfield Assisted Living told me the first step in tackling a detour. Remember your roots. In order to look forward, you first must look behind you. Remember who you are. Remember your roots. Remember where you came from. For me, my roots are planted with my family. My grandfather is an incredibly brilliant man who will never cease to leave you wondering how someone can be so incredibly charismatic. My grandmother will forever serve as a core inspiration and foundation for all that I am and do. She's incredibly gentle, humble, caring. We miss her more and more with each passing day. My mom is one hell of a woman. She is the strongest, utmost, independent, powerful woman I know, and yet amidst this passion and strength, she illustrates what it means to be a gentle and humble, caring servant for our local communities and families. This is my dad, aka my twin. Arguing with my dad is like arguing with a mirror. He's incredibly hardworking, very stubborn, and very relentless. I am honored to be his daughter. This is my brother. He's all right. I'm kidding. I love my brother. He has an incredibly big heart. He's incredibly intelligent, and he is the most loyal friend I have ever had. This is where I came from. Dum Spiro Sparrow is engraved on our family crest and hearts, meaning while I breathe, I hope. We are a resilient bunch that persevere in the face of all adversity and do so with service and compassion at the forefront of all our actions. Another resident at Deerfield Assisted Living is a former redhead, and let me tell you, she's got that fiery redhead temperament. We bonded over a spirited, competitive relationship during bingo, and she told me the second step in tackling a detour. As things change, we change with them. When our plans change, when we have no clear direction, we are also changing. We're undergoing tumultuous growing pains, but it is through these growing pains that we are able to reach our full potential. So now we know what a detour is and what to do. So now what? Amidst my failure, I grew hopeless very quickly. I was in the uncharted wilderness where the branches were scratching me, there was no sunshine, and I could not see a way forward. The things I counted on and dreamed of for so long no longer felt attainable. I was terrified, but I was breathing, so I can hope. This was a change. I need to change too. So I got up. I sent what felt like thousands of emails, scheduled meetings, and where I was not finding answers, I found a way to get them. And before I knew it, when the thunder was roaring, I roared too. Where the branches were scratching me, I moved them out of the way. And where the sun was not shining, I knew that it would shine again one day. And before I knew it, I was in an open field of possibility. One that brought opportunity and possibilities. And it's through this open field that I am able to be here with you all today. We're all going to end up on a detour, some big and some small. Our plans are not going to look like what we envisioned. Our plans are not going to be pre-paved and walked on by others. We are not going to end up where we thought we would be. We're going to end up in places that are good, and some of them are going to be bad. You are going to fail too. But it is through these detours, through these failures, that we are able to reach our full potential. So when you're on a detour, pull up your bootstraps, remember who you are, and keep hiking. When the thunder roars, you roar louder. Where the branches are scratching you, you move them out of the way. And when the sun is not shining, you will know that it will shine again. So now I want y'all to do something with me. When I say thunder, you say thunder. Thunder! Thunder! My name was Sally Dillon. This was a detour. Thank y'all.
What could I do? And I knew there was no help from you. Sound of the drums beating in my heart. The thunder of God.
Thank you to everyone for coming out to Panorama tonight, and please join me in one more round of applause for all of tonight's speakers.